So welcome to the demo video for Sprint 2 of the Searchworks Indexing and Performance Work Cycle. This is Christina Harlow. I am the product owner for the Searchworks Indexing and Performance Work Cycle. We have a large team involved. We have Chris Spear as our technical lead, Shelley, Doljack, Jessie, Keck, Jack Reed, Camille and Drew Winget as our software engineers. Alyssa Hefele and Sarah Seastone as key stakeholders. Gary Geisler and Jennifer Vine have been consultant UX designers. Stu Steinman is our DLSS direct liaison. And Kam Chan, sometimes backed up by Julian Morley, as our ops and DevOps liaisons. So this is our Sprint 2 demo video. And for Sprint 2, let's first revisit what goals we wanted to try to get achieved in the last week before going around the team to talk about what we got done. For Sprint 2, we wanted to finish the currently in progress move of our VMs to NDCCH in order to benefit from the network performance improvements of that, and Cam will talk a little bit about our move for that. We wanted to set some performance and profiling baselines for our various Searchworks indexing and application components. So we know that we want to make indexing and performance faster, but faster with some numbers behind it would probably be a better way to measure our progress. So to try to set some baselines, we were looking at ongoing changes and updates to our Searchworks Index test suite to capture any edge cases as we change this to see what has changed for our end users. We wanted to try to get some health checks in place, which we're still working on, and to do some profiling of our actual indexing pipelines. Last Sprint demo, we showed our significant improvement to the profiling for our MARC indexing pipeline. Today, we might talk a little bit about how we're trying to assess our mods indexing pipeline. So setting baselines, again, was one of our goals for this past sprint. We started a significant movement into using Traject, which is an open source library for doing MARC to SOLR document indexing. This would be moving away from our fork of a branch of SolrMARC to something that's currently supported by other folks in the community and used by many of our partners. So we'll talk a little bit about our movement of our actual indexing code from SolrMARC to Traject, and then some assessment we did of possibly using our work with Traject to do mods indexing. We also have started the sequencing and assessment of steps for moving the Searchworks index to SUL-Solr, which is our instance of Solr Cloud, and updating the version of SUL-Solr to Solr 7. And on the way there, we're going to make a pretty good pit stop at Solr 6, and Jessie will be talking a little bit about that. I think those are our primary goals that we'll go through in this demo. So at this point, I will hand it off to Jack. Jack, do you want to share your screen?
Sure, thanks, Christina. Can you see?
Yes.
Okay, great. So over the past little bit more than a week, but last week we really worked a lot on it. I was porting over the Searchworks MARC indexing code to Traject. This is not only just porting over the code into Traject, but also porting over all of the existing SolrMARC tests. So the team has been hard at work on this, and we're close to about right around 100 of the SolR fields are ported over now. And the total number of fields previously in the SolrMARC code was around 142. And this was for our MARC indexing code. So that represents over 2/3 complete, and we have some work completed that's not merged in yet. That represents a lot of these actually really hard fields. One thing to note here is the previous code base, the SolrMARC Searchworks code base that we're porting from, is around 40,000 lines of Java code. And currently what we've ported to is right now less than 10,000 lines of Ruby code. And so that's a significant reduction in code maintenance by the engineering team for long term. So I don't necessarily have a, well, another thing to mention is that our ported over code base, our test suite now runs in less than a minute and a half. This is also a reduction, a large reduction from the previous SolrMARC test suite runtime. Having a smaller runtime allows us to make changes quicker and understand how the code base is working a little bit better. So I guess that's kind of a synopsis of our where we're at with our MARC indexing changes. And I wanted to, before I mention it, yeah, I guess Chris isn't back yet, so I will. We also, in a pairing session last week, were able to port over the existing mods indexing code. So I think the team, in about 2 or 3 hours, ported over all of the existing mods indexing code into the same code base. So I don't know, that's kind of, we've made a ton of progress in the past week and modernizing and updating these code bases, and yeah, it's really kind of where we're at now. Thanks.
Thanks, Jack. Okay, so now we're going to go to discussing the move of the Searchworks Index to Solr Cloud.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want me to show, or do you want to screen share?
No, so yeah, I don't really have anything to show in particular. I mean, if I don't know if you want to pull the card up, which is in our epics.
I've got it up here.
Yeah. So basically, we've kind of laid out a list of steps there. I'll go through what that means in kind of more easy terms. So currently, Searchworks is running on its own independent Solr instance, and that is running on Solr version 4.4.0. The rest, or pretty much the rest of our applications that run on Solr are currently running on a Solr Cloud version, which is running 6.6.0. So one of the parts of the process of this sprint is going to be to move the index that Searchworks is pointing to that modern version of Solr with the rest of our applications. One of the issues that we ran into is we had to make an update to the Searchworks code base to change a bit about how it deals with sending parameters to Solr, particularly for things like fielded search. So when I go and I select title from the drop down and I search in a term, how we map that over and how we let Solr know which configuration specifically we're talking about. In determining and making that change in the Searchworks code base, we actually found out that there was an issue with the current version of Solr that we were on using that methodology, and it wasn't actually addressed until somewhere between where we are now and where we want it to be. So as part of that process, what we're going to do is we need to bring Searchworks Index into SUL-Solr. As I mentioned, we looked at the 6.6.0 version that's running right now, and there's actually some issues with how it's handling CJK, or Chinese, Japanese, Korean searching. I believe that a newer version in the 6.6 line is supposed to address that. So our plan is we're going to upgrade our SUL-Solr cloud to the latest either like 6.6.1 or higher. Once we've done that, we will be able to then take the Searchworks index and start indexing into SUL-Solr, which will allow us to start taking a look at relevancy differences, because we know that the CJK searching will be working, as well as all of the fielded search configurations that we've set up will work out fine. At that point, we can move our application, the Searchworks application. And I should mention, in between all this, there's a process for testing, meeting with the super users group, and iterating back to the team for testing. I'm just not going into all that detail, but that is listed on the card there. So once we've kind of gotten sign off and are feeling comfortable with the new index, we plan on moving the Searchworks app as well as all of our relevancy tests over to point at SUL-Solr. Once we've done that, that will allow us to upgrade SUL-Solr to the latest 6 version and also move on to 7. So that basically once we've done that, it starts giving us the ability to semi-automate at least testing for version upgrades against all of the applications, plus allowing the Searchworks relevancy test suite to allow us to have more confidence in our Solr upgrades, not only for Searchworks, but for the Solr upgrades across DLSS's portfolio of applications.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a rough rundown of what our step-by-step process for migrating not only Solr to a modern version, but also getting the Searchworks Index onto SUL-Solr and out of its standalone.
Thanks, Jessie. So great, yeah, so that's our migration path, and I know there's been a lot of investigative work to make sure that each step of that can be tested and seamless and that we're not losing features as we move along. So appreciate that. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about all of the ops magic going on, including a possible handoff to some of the performance tuning after Kam checks in.
Okay, so last Thursday we moved the last of the Searchworks related servers from the Foresight VMware farm to the NDCCH instance. There's over 30 servers that were moved. And also we increased the memory of the SW-Solr nodes, all 6 of them. And Chris also increased the Solr heap size from 6 to 10 gigs, and after that it seems to have improved performance by quite a bit. And Chris can probably talk more about that.
Great. So yeah, do you want to talk about performance tuning, and do you want to share your screen, or what would you like me to show?
Share.
Okay, cool. I'll leave this up.
So as Kam mentioned, we've moved the servers to the NDCCH data center and increased the amount of memory that these servers had. And what we saw from that is a 5 or 6-fold improvement in response time from our indexes, which brings it on par with what we currently have in production, if not a little faster. So we're already seeing some improvements without doing kind of the hard performance tuning tasks that we're looking forward to doing later this spring. And I don't think we've done an indexing test since that's been done, but we were already seeing indexing times on par with the current production server, so we're in good shape there.
So at this point, we were just going to wrap up with some of the setting baseline questions, if that sounds good to you. Mainly researching the outstanding CJK issues, and then anything you might add to the SUL-Solr to 661 that Jessie set up and walked through before.
Yeah. So one of the first things we noticed when we started testing against the new Solr 6 version using our Searchworks relevancy test suite was our CJK recall was either non-existent, so we were getting no results back for a CJK query, or they were wildly different from what we had in production, and that was obviously very worrying to us. So we did some investigation that we reported on last week, I believe, and determined that Solr 661 was going to fix some of these problems for us, and it's always great when these upstream projects do the hard work before we get to it. So we happily did that upgrade last week, and we now have too much recall for our CJK queries. We're getting every matching document for these queries, which is a problem because with the CJK scripts, there's a variety of issues that make it difficult to determine where word boundaries are, and so you end up with a challenging balance of finding minimum match values, which is how many of these characters must be in the document in order for the document to be returned. And so we're anticipating some tuning there in response to some changes that Solr's made that we certainly need more research into. On the other hand, it's exciting that the recall is much greater than it was before. That means we'll have a little more ability to do this tuning and have confidence that we're not excluding matching docs, which we certainly were before. We've already discovered through our testing, some documents that are now correctly being returned, whereas they were not before.
Great, okay, thank you. So that is our demo for Sprint 2. Coming up next week, we'll be hoping to continue to move this code to Traject, looking at profiling for baselines and really starting to dig into some of the questions that are partnered with this SolrMARC version upgrade. In particular, trying to, we hope, reach out to our super users and our stakeholders to start making sure that the changes that we're noticing are either good or passable. So thank you very much for listening to this. If you've got questions or issues, you can leave them on comments on the video or reach out to us on Slack or email the team.